Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me today as we go through another important update. Please remember to watch until the end so you can see the sources and try to verify the news for yourself. And before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more updates delivered in a natural and clear way. Now, let's get into today's news. In one of the informal areas, a group of Zimbabwean nationals found themselves in a heated situation after the makeshift church they had set up under electric poles was destroyed. According to reports, the church was established by undocumented Zimbabweans who had been using the space as a place of worship. The location was right beneath high-voltage power lines, which not only raised questions about legality but also about safety. When authorities moved in and dismantled the church structure, the worshippers reportedly reacted with loud anger and frustration, with some screaming in protest. For them, the church was more than just a building, it was a sanctuary, a place of community, and a symbol of hope. Losing it so suddenly left them feeling humiliated and excluded. This incident has sparked discussions in the community and beyond, because it touches on several sensitive issues. The first is the question of legality. Setting up any structure under electric poles is dangerous and not permitted by municipal regulations. High-voltage lines pose a serious risk of electrocution, and authorities argue that leaving such structures standing would be irresponsible. The second issue is that of immigration. Because the individuals involved are undocumented Zimbabweans, the matter is tied to the ongoing debates about foreign nationals living in South Africa without proper documentation. Some locals see the destruction of the church as a necessary step to enforce the law, while others feel that it highlights a bigger problem of how communities and migrants coexist. Witnesses described the reaction as chaotic, with worshippers shouting and expressing their anger as their place of prayer was taken down. Some accused authorities of targeting them unfairly because of their nationality. Others asked where they were supposed to go now, as they had no other building to use for their gatherings. On the other side, community members have voiced different opinions. Some residents say they sympathize with the churchgoers because everyone needs a place to practice their faith, but at the same time, they believe the location under the electric poles was never safe. Others feel that undocumented migrants should not be allowed to set up such structures at all, and that South Africa already struggles with enough pressure on resources and land. The incident raises broader questions about how communities manage space and how authorities balance enforcement with compassion. South Africa is a deeply religious country, and churches, big or small, form part of daily life. But when churches are set up in unsafe or illegal places, it becomes a tricky matter. No one wants to deny people their right to worship, but safety laws exist for a reason. Authorities defending their actions said that allowing a church under dangerous power lines could put lives at risk, and if an accident had occurred, the same people would be blamed for not acting earlier. They added that this was not the only illegal structure in the area, and more cleanup operations may follow. This also touches on the bigger picture of migration between Zimbabwe and South Africa. For many Zimbabweans, crossing the border into South Africa is about survival. They come in search of work, stability, or simply a chance to live with dignity. But without proper papers, many end up in vulnerable positions, often building informal homes or churches in unsafe spaces. For the South African side, communities are divided. Some people feel strongly that undocumented foreigners should not be allowed to stay, while others believe the humanitarian side must also be considered, since many of these individuals come out of desperation. The destroyed church is just one example of the bigger tensions at play. This event also shines a light on the role of churches in migrant communities. For many Zimbabweans in South Africa, churches provide not only spiritual support but also social support. They serve as meeting places, networks for jobs, and sources of encouragement. That is why the loss of their makeshift church hit so hard. It wasn't just about losing a roof and benches, it was about losing a lifeline. Now the question remains, what happens next? Will the group try to rebuild in a safer area? Will authorities keep a closer eye on informal worship spaces? And will this lead to more confrontations between communities and undocumented migrants? These are questions with no easy answers. What is clear is that both sides feel strongly. For the undocumented Zimbabweans, they feel stripped of dignity and left without a place of worship. For authorities and local residents, the safety risk and legal issues cannot be ignored. This tension is not new, and it reflects the broader challenges South Africa faces in balancing law enforcement with compassion in an environment where resources are already stretched thin. So, what do you think about this situation? Should the authorities have destroyed the church immediately, or should they have tried to find a safer alternative for the worshippers before taking action? Do you think the real issue here is about safety, or is it more about immigration and who is allowed to occupy space in South Africa? Before I close, let me remind you again to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more updates like this. We always bring the news in a way that is natural and clear, so you can also go back to the sources and verify for yourself. And to end on a lighter note, I must say, building a church under electric poles might sound like a shortcut to reaching heaven, but it's really not the safest way to get there. Let's hope next time they choose a spot with less voltage and more peace. All images used are for illustration purposes only. Sources: The Citizen, Times Live, Sowetan Live, News 24.